I want to explain why I actually like the narrative of Onyx right now when compared to where it was last year, even though it may sound kind of counterintuitive. I first want to clarify before I explain, again, how I am not a financial advisor. Nothing I say is financial advice. This is purely my perspective, and I am not telling anyone to do anything. But besides that, people sometimes like to tell me that they find it a little bit counterintuitive that I actually like Onyx right now better than before, and why I like the narrative, again, currently, when compared to Onyx actually last year. The reason why is because I feel like Onyx actually fundamentally improved. Now, Onyx hasn't done the most things as of late, but if I take a look at the crowning achievement of Onyx so far, I think is the launch of its layer 1 blockchain, which we of course know is Goliath. But here's the thing. Last year, when XCN was doing way better than right now, market cap was around 1 billion. Keep in mind, as of right now, the market cap when it comes to XCN is still around 175 million. So again, we're over 5 times lower than where it was last year at one point. But at that point in 2025, I don't think the fundamentals were as good as right now. But yet still, it was able to achieve that despite the lack of fundamentals and despite not having the narrative being as strong as it is currently. So if, let's say, the market sentiment returned back to that point, I feel like actually now Onyx has a lot more going on for it, fundamentally speaking, as opposed to before. So this is one of the major reasons why I still haven't given up when it comes to Onyx. I mean, people like to ask me, well, take a look at this random project that achieved this very fantastic movement. Oh, take a look at this other project out there. But personally for me, I am not looking for that. Like, I'm not looking for the next greatest, best thing ever of all time. I'm not looking for that at all. It's like, for instance, I have some friends out there who really like cars. Now, to each their own. I like cars as well, but personally for me, a Toyota BZ or let's say a Toyota RAV4, that for me is all that I care about. Like, I don't need any more than that. This is personally my perspective. Like, I like seeing cars, of course, but I am not a car enthusiast in a sense where I don't really need the most coolest car out there of all time. Like, I don't see any happiness in that for me, even though I do appreciate it in seeing other people's cars and just seeing cars in general. But again, when it comes to the space overall, sure, if someone out there is looking for the next greatest or best thing out there of all time, again, I can't control anyone. Like, some of my friends out there, they're looking for that. And if they do find that, then okay, that's cool for them. But personally for me, I'm not looking for that. If XCN goes back to around 1 billion in terms of market cap, which it clearly achieved last year, but I'm saying, if it just goes back to that, what else do I really have to complain about? Like, okay, of course, if it did better than that, I'd be happier. But at this point, I really don't need to anymore because XCN's pullback has been that extensive, it being over 5 times lower than 1 billion in terms of market cap. If it could go back to, let's say, maybe 1 billion in terms of market cap, who knows, in a random hypothetical, then okay, I have nothing to complain about anymore. Now, granted, if let's say XCN was holding up at around a 400 million market cap or around like a 500 million market cap, then okay, at that point, I get the argument. If it maybe went back to like 1 billion in terms of market cap, people like to say that sounds a little bit boring. Okay, I get the argument there, but at the same time, if XCN is below 200 million in terms of market cap, it's a little bit of a different story because at that point, it's over 5 times lower than 1 billion in terms of market cap, which we just saw last year. But at this time, I actually think the narrative when it comes to Onyx is a lot better than before. So I'm totally aware that Onyx is never going to become the biggest or the greatest project of all time. I mean, last year even, right? Did it at any point ever become the biggest or the best project of all time? No, it did not. So Onyx, first of all, straight off the bat, it doesn't need to become the biggest or the best in my opinion. This is just personally my perspective. But it doesn't really need to anyways, again, right? It just recently reached 1 billion in terms of market cap last year. I don't think it needs to ever become the best or the greatest. This is just my perspective. Sure, this random microcap could do this or do whatever. But when it comes to Onyx, I don't need it to do that. And also, if we think about this logically speaking, people only usually really talk about a microcap that did very well in a random hypothetical. They usually talk about the ones that actually did it. They don't talk about usually the ones that didn't, because I think, first of all, there's a lot that usually don't make it. And also, second of all, people don't usually want to talk about the ones that don't make it, right? So we don't really sometimes hear the full story. It's like some people out there saying, oh, wow, this project made it. But then it required them to believe in like hundreds upon hundreds of random projects that we've probably never heard of. For what? Like, I'm not into microcaps. It would be pretty cool if they talked about that microcap and talked about the other microcaps that didn't. But usually people don't talk about that, right? They only talk about the ones that actually did something. So it doesn't really paint the full picture sometimes. This is just the way to take a look at it. Now, people like to say, well, yeah, Onyx hasn't done anything either. What are you talking about as of late? Again, I'm totally aware of that, but at least when it comes to Onyx, it's not like I'm saying, oh, it's the most fantastic thing. I'm not. I'm clearly aware that it's not doing the best as of right now, but I'm just saying, I don't even need it to ever become the best anyways, because if it just went back to around $1 billion in terms of market cap, I have nothing to complain about. That's just the basic gist of it as of right now when it comes to Onyx. So again, I'm not looking for a microcap. Also on top of that, I'm not looking for the next best thing. This is just the way to take a look at it. But nonetheless, Onyx is focused, primarily speaking, on the global trade and finance market, in which case we do know that Ripple and Stellar, it's number one and number two. But when people like to tell me that the narrative when it comes to Onyx is cooked or whatever, I just don't get it, because literally the narrative that it's focused on is global trade and finance, which again, Stellar and Ripple is literally focused on that. So if they're saying Onyx's narrative is cooked, are they saying that Ripple and Stellar, are they saying that the narrative they're focused on is cooked as well? You know, it just doesn't make sense, right? I don't think so. So when it comes to Onyx, okay, it'll never become as big as Ripple or Stellar. No way, it's never going to become that big. But it doesn't mean that the narrative is cooked, because Onyx is, again, literally focused on the global trade and finance market, primarily speaking. So if that narrative is cooked, then what, Ripple or Stellar is cooked as well? You know, how does that make sense, in my opinion? But yeah, besides that point, people like to tell me, well, Onyx, they launched Goliath, but it's not that popular yet. It's not the best. Well, let's take a look at Stellar. Sure, we know Stellar is being very popular today, but was it as popular back in 2015? Like 11 years ago, basically? No, it wasn't, right? So again, sometimes things could take quite a while. Goliath literally launched this year. It's not like it's been around for 10 years, 5 years, 2 years, not even a year in terms of the mainnet. It just hasn't been around for that long. They launched the testnet last year, but the mainnet was this year. So in theory, it hasn't really had time to see any sort of major adoption yet. Maybe, if it could ever even do that. But the thing is, the timing of the launch wasn't even necessarily the most fantastic anyways, because the market sentiment clearly wasn't doing the best. So how can I really fully evaluate that? There's no way. The only way I could is after some time has passed by. But I think it's a little bit too early for me to say that Goliath is cooked in terms of a layer one blockchain. I don't think about it that way, because first of all, it's not the right parameters for me to kind of fully evaluate it. The market, first of all, isn't doing the best. And when the market usually isn't doing the best, typically developers, they usually don't really want to enter. Not to mention, it just literally launched this year though, right? When it comes to Goliath, there's like no sort of timeline for me to evaluate it in a long-term basis. There's no way yet for me to do that. So again, when it comes to Onyx doing that, I don't think it was a flop. I think, if anything, it was the right step in the right direction in terms of improving, fundamentally speaking. And I think it was a good thing, actually, that they did do that, because their closest competitor, which is called Zebic, they've been kind of stepping up their game as of late. Take a look at the recent Stellar partnership that they had. And I'm not joking, by the way, Zebic, which again is Onyx's closest competitor, that recently had a partnership with Stellar. So Onyx launching Goliath, it's kind of like stepping up their game a little bit. Maybe Zebic is still doing kind of more things fundamentally as of right now in terms of the diversity. However, again, Onyx launching Goliath, that was a step in the right direction. It kind of made it a little bit more competitive and just a little bit more, I think, established when it comes to the space of global trade and finance. So overall, I think it was a cool thing, and I just like the narrative as of right now a lot better than where it was last year. But that's just personally my perspective, and I just want to say thank you for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I hope you all have a very nice day. It's been Lee the Captain. I'm out. Peace. Bye.